everyone. This is Lek Archie. Um, and Lek Archie. Um, and it's so weird hearing my own voice. I'm here with something a little different. I have finally figured out how to make speed paint videos, so I decided to, just record a time lapse through OBS of me completing a page of my webcomic, Atlas Academy. Oh yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I I have a webcomic called Atlas Academy. If you poke around on my YouTube page, which I don't recommend, but you would see a video labeled Tales of Concordia concept or something or other. And that's basically what this webcomic is, but only at least a little bit good, I would hope. Um, so yeah, this video is just going to be me rambling, mostly about the comic and my characters and just my journey as an artist and how far I feel I've come, or however this recording goes. I don't know. I get off subject so often. But yeah, I felt like making this video because I see a lot of people make them, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of hard to edit these, but it's also really fun to just look at your process play out and also to talk over it and let other people see their process and also you discussing it. I took a lot of inspiration from other artists who do this, and I've been watching other people do this since I was in like high school and started taking drawing seriously, and it's kind of surreal that I'm doing them now. But regardless, I hope that you guys enjoy this, um, for whichever element, be it if you just want to see the art and you would rather just mute me and listen to your own music. Totally understandable, honestly. But, or if you just want to hear me talk about my art process and my art journey, or, you just like to hear me ramble for some reason, yeah, regardless, I hope you enjoy this and stay for the entire duration. I think this video might end up being almost an hour long. Like that's how long I recorded the drawing process anyway. But yeah, so where to start? Um well, I guess I should start with the comic that I'm drawing. So, as you can see, I'm in Clip Studio Paint, and I'm working on my webcomic, Atlas Academy. For those of you who don't know, it's... Well, okay, so let me explain the premise. Sorry, so Atlas Academy, so it's a story that I've been developing ever since I was in college, nearly a decade ago, so... well, literally a decade ago. Um, but basically, Atlas Academy is a comic where the premise is that magic exists in this world, but they used to do the whole wizard book method of, hiding magic from the normies, staying in the shadow, hidden by the mist something or other. And but it got to a point, like, over time, with each generation, magic started becoming like more and more common. um so it got to a point where it was impossible to deny that magic was a real thing and not just, something that humans made up or something that humans claimed that they saw at one point. And that said, magical beings and people who like own schools of magic took that as like the go ahead to come out of hiding. And when they did, they had to, capitulate to how countries run their schools officially now that they're acknowledged as official schools. So essentially, Atlas Academy is about a magic college that takes place in the modern world. So basically, it's a slice of life fantasy comic, um, sort of an urban fantasy, as it's called apparently, where there's magical elements, but it takes place in like what we would know as the modern or real world, or at least some iteration of it. Basically, a a regular story with a little bit of magic in it. At least that's how I would describe Atlas Academy. Yeah, the fantasy elements, they are mostly in the story to keep things fresh. Um, at its heart, Atlas Academy is a very grounded story. I would say. Um, Although there's some big fights, there are action scenes from time to time. Much of the time is spent getting to know the characters, seeing them in their very human, raw forms. Well, some of the characters aren't human. I I should say they're vulnerable forms. A lot of development between these characters, and just their interactions and their growth as people. Because again, it is a college. So in addition to all the magic stuff, you also have people who are fresh out of high school or close to being fresh out of high school, learning to be functioning adults in modern society. Plus magic. So yeah, basically it's how to adult, and also there's magics. That's how I describe it. Um, so the now that we have the premise, oh, another thing I should mention, the actual makeup of the school. So there's majors. Um, and funnily enough, I had been looking up D&D classes, even though I've actually never played. um, I was tangentially aware of D&D classes, bard, mage, sorcerer, all that good stuff. And with that, I actually started thinking, hang on, bards in the modern world, maybe they would just be like theater majors? The theater kids? And mages and wizards, they study magic, right? So maybe like scholars or analysts? Maybe? Um but yeah, so with that, I realized that D&D classes would be a good basis at least for college majors. So that's when I really cemented the idea of making it a magic school for young adults, because they a lot of D&D classes coincided with college majors for the most part. I do a little tweaking and then take a few liberties. But yeah, essentially, Atlas Academy is a story about young adults learning to be adults, and but the college majors are instead like D&D classes if they were to exist today. At least how I think that those classes would develop in like a modern world. If you know, big warring worlds, fantasy stuff, slaying dragons and all that wasn't as common nowadays. And it's like, okay, great, you can slay a dragon, but how's that gonna help your portfolio or resume? So, yeah, that's pretty much the premise. So, with that, the characters. Ooh, oh, sorry. uh, the characters of Atlas Academy. They're my babies. There's no other way for me to say it really. I They took a long time to develop many of them. Ooh, I don't want to say it was a pain or a burden, because good characters take a while to develop. Like, very rarely do you just get it right on the first try. There's a lot of like drafts, both drawing and writing wise, that you have to do when you're creating characters, if you want to make good ones at least. And that's my way of looking at it. But since I had the setting and premise down, making characters became a lot easier. But for quite a while, I was struggling to make good characters. Like, the characters that I was making before were so they were just nothing burgers. Just tropes on tropes on tropes. Like just grabbing every trope that I liked and calling it a character, pretty much. Just a Frankenstein's monster of tropes that didn't belong together. But once I started developing the story and characters in tandem, thinking harder about what could work and what could not work, um, it got easier over time, and now my characters are in a place where I really care about them, and I feel like they're very compelling. Um, and given the feedback that I've gotten on my comic, both from reviewers and just people who comment on it or send me asks, I, I, I would say that at least a few other people also think that they're compelling, at least a little bit as much as I do. But yeah. So characters, most of them are students at the school, if that couldn't be guessed. But the let's start with our protagonist. So our main character, his name is Caden. He is I don't want to say underprivileged. Hayden's family does all right. He had a good upbringing in like the suburbs of Chicago. But since Atlas Academy is supposed to be the best magic school in the world, um the people that they recruit are typically, well, filthy rich, either filthy rich or like already famous or like something or other that makes them an elite. Um, One of the inspirations I took for Atlas Academy, believe it or not, was Danganronpa. Not the murders part. No. I don't. Nobody dies in my comic, at least not yet. I don't plan to kill off characters. They're too precious to me, and I don't really like that killing off characters like as a trope. At least not when it comes to TV and movies and like stories that I'm trying to have a good time with. Like there's a time and place for me to see characters die horribly, but not when I'm trying to read something that's a feel good story for the most part. So but yeah, Danganronpa inspired me in the way that if you've never played Danganronpa or heard of it, it's a murder mystery game that takes place at what's called Hope's Peak Academy. And the gimmick with that is that all the students are like the ultimate or the super high school da 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 da. Which essentially means that they each have a talent that they're supposedly the best in the world at, at least by teenager standards. Like they're the best in the world at whatever they do amongst high schoolers, and that's why this high school recruits them, because they want to have the best students and cultivate talent, say. So for example, there's a girl who is the ultimate idol, uh, and her thing is that she's a super famous and super talented idol. So they recruit her to be in the school. Another one is like the ultimate mechanic, and he's the best high schooler they could find who can repair things, essentially. Um, yeah, I'm kind of underselling it, really. Danganronpa, it's quite the franchise, but you should check it out if you haven't yet. You'll be in for a wild ride. But yeah, that is to say that everyone in the main supporting cast has some sort of particular talent or major that they excel at. So but Caton, what makes him special is that he is a sorcerer. So sorcerers in this world, they are typically well, they're essentially the trust fund brats, pretty much. So sorcerers, because they're born with the most powerful magic in the world. And supposedly they just have innate mastery of it, like they're just good at magic. They don't really need as much learning as others. At least that's how it appears. So yeah, they're the most powerful magic users, and they're somewhat rare. And they also tend to be rich because their ancestors would go on like missions to do, you know, dragon slaying or slaying trolls, or pretty much they would take the lead on like old missions back when fantasy monsters were a lot more rampant. And because of that, they would get paid like a lot more gold than most others who could use magic. And so because of that, even as like, you know, times went on and things became more modern, and like, you know, magic had to be like hidden away, sorcerers got to like sit on generational wealth that was earned by like their ancestors who actually put work in. And sorcerers, they get to be born with powerful magic, just because genetics, and they also get to be born into families that have a lot of money because they worked hard at some point, and now nobody in their bloodline has to work hard ever again. And but what makes Caden different is that as I mentioned, he grew up not poor, but he had a pretty much just a normal life. But he got his magic from his great grandmother, who was born in what today would be Nigeria. And she you know, did that whole thing of like putting the work in to help others with her magic. But unlike most sorcerers, she never did it for money. So because of that, Caden is not rich. And also because it's of African origin, and history still played out pretty much the same way as it did in the real world. It's hard to find information about her, pretty much. So Caden didn't know that he came from a line of sorcerers until like his powers manifested one day, and he was like, "Oh my god, I have magic? What?" Like, but that's the thing about magic schools being integrated in the modern world. They now, because they operate by American school system standards, and magic is, but while it's still common, it's still kind of rare. Like, it's common enough to be acknowledged that it exists, but still rare enough that they can make any magic school a private school. So yeah, so while Caden's family is doing fine, they weren't doing fine enough to put him into a school where he could learn how to use his powers. And as mentioned, there isn't much information about his ancestors out there. Like that's a whole subplot in of itself. Caden trying to find more information about her. But yeah, essentially, Caden had magic in him. He never learned, but he's never been able to learn about his powers or really control his magic well, because he can afford, he cannot afford to you know, be taught. Like, well, he couldn't afford to go to any sort of magic school that teaches magic. Plus, he's a sorcerer, so his magic is very powerful and unique to his bloodline. So with no information about the ancestor he got it from, he was pretty much screwed. Yeah, but that was when once he reached high school senior age, Atlas Academy reached out to him and offered him a full scholarship. But it wasn't because they were actually interested in him. It's because the other sorcerers in the story, who are just a whole set of characters. The other sorcerers in the story, only 3 of them enrolled this year, and in order to keep those classes going, they need to have at least 4 students enroll. And because the other sorcerers actually do come from rich families that donate money to Atlas frequently, they don't want to miss out on that. So they found Caden essentially to just ensure that they would still have that cash flow from the rich sorcerers who really don't care about helping people with their magic or learning or anything. They just go to college because their parents make them, because they think it's tacky to only have a high school diploma. They're not trying to do any actual good with the education. They just go there because they can afford it, and then some. But Caden on the other hand, he was raised well, sort of a humble life per se. Caden believes in using his powers to help others. That's what he wants to do with his powers. Like that is why he's here. He wants to learn about himself, learn how to use his powers, and then use them to help make the world a better place. And although he you know, comes to Atlas Academy, he's all hopeful and stuff. He goes through some trials and tribulations. So let's just say, um, yeah, because you know, shy suburban boy who had sort of a humdrum life up until this point, going to like this rich school. Not only a rich school, it's a school of wonder, like a school of magic and whimsy that he's never been able to see, that he was paywalled off from seeing. So he's an outsider on two fronts, with him having to learn about magic and him having to just learn about being in a rich kid's school. So that is effectively gonna be like his arc, his major arc. Just him you know, trying to adjust and survive really in this school. Caden himself is a character who I redesigned him a lot. He's come very far, I would say. He has a lot more personality. He has a personality, I would say. Yeah, before he was just sort of a blank slate, typical, almost typical YA novel fare, almost gritty, really. But as I developed him, I made him a bit more, I would say, goofy, maybe. Well, not goofy, just, he has a sense of humor. You know, he cracks a lot of jokes. I wouldn't say that he's snarky, per se, but, you know, if somebody comes at him with that energy, he just comes back with a roast or a joke or something of the other. And he's also, very, very friendly, and curious. He's trying to be, like, optimistic. I'd call Caden cautiously optimistic, essentially. You know, he's excited to learn more about this world, about magic, about people around him, and, you know, he doesn't want to let the bad experiences ruin the whole thing. He's here to stay, no matter what people say about him, whether the school believes in him or not. He wants to be here, and he's going to stay here, and he's going to have as good of a time as he can, learn as much as he can, and have as many good experiences as he can. And yeah, that is essentially Caden. I might as well go over the whole main cast while I'm at it. But Caden ends up meeting some other characters, and 3 other characters, at least in the initially. He'll meet others, but the main cast consists of 3 other characters. And through some shenanigans, it's found out that Caden's magic, he can actually use different. You can actually use his magic for different things, I would say. So Caden's magic is primarily fire-based. So he has like the elemental fire magic. He uses blue flames, and essentially he thought that he could only set things on fire, pretty much. But after meeting his friends and bonding with them, after the bond reaches a certain point, he is able to essentially, I don't want to say leech, but he essentially like gets some sort of iteration of their power through that bond that he forms with them. So it's I didn't want to say it, but it really is magic of friendship, sort of. So another character, they use like illusions, like that's their form of magic, that's their best at, and that's what they like use, essentially. But once Caden bonds with them, he's also able to make illusions, and they're like embers. Although it's different forms of magic, I still make them like fire related, just from a design standpoint to make it fit in more aesthetically. But yeah, Caden's able to then produce like embers that form a screen and can make illusions as well once he bonds with that person who can make illusions. So up now he has fire and illusions, and as he meets more people and forms stronger bonds with them, he will get get more powers and more spells, more capabilities. And his journey will be his main journey will be like bonding with those people, getting those horns of magic, and learning how to best use them to help others. And so that's pretty much Caden. Oh yeah, and I should probably get to his love interest. Well, well now he's his boyfriend after the first chapter. So another character is Bo. Bo, like most of the characters here, went through a lot of changes. So Bo, he is an idol. Well, he's a bard, I should say. So bards in this world, that I glossed over initially, they're essentially like the artsy theater kid types. They use magic to make art or perform, or to just they use magic in like creative ways. So Bo in particular, I know I mentioned, well, I didn't mention, but he's the one who can use illusions. But he also has a hypnotic voice. Um, with that, so his magic is illusions, but he also has a hypnotic voice because he may or may not have a little bit of siren DNA in him. I'll whether or not I'll make that canon is to be decided, but regardless, his voice does have hypnotic qualities. So combining that with illusions, he is able to make his own stage effects and also just give these performances that are really out of this world. And from that, he became like a famous pop star. And he enrolled in Atlas Academy because he actually had to drop out of high school to keep up with the schedule of being a bard. And because his primary audience is like teenage girls or teenagers, in come the soccer moms like, hey, you're setting a bad example for the kids. Why are you dropping out of school? What? So his manager convinced him to enroll in Atlas Academy basically for PR reasons. But he's glad he went with it because he met Caden, and now they're a couple. Bo is he's a very lovey-dovey person, very romantic person. He was in movies at one point. Well, his first ever time in the spotlight was in a romance movie. And he was at a very formative age, and that kind of shaped the way he looked at the world. Like, he's kind of moony-eyed, not as willing to, like, look at the reality of things, maybe. He's optimistic, like Caden, but it's a bit more of like a delusional, optimistic, sort of a naive, sheltered optimism, I might say. But he falls in love with Caden pretty much at first sight, and thankfully it's reciprocated. And he goes on to support Caden in all of his endeavors. Caden gets his first power from him, the illusion magic. And yeah, Bo's role in the story would pretty much just be Caden's emotional rock. You know, cheering him up when he's down on himself, doing his best to, like, protect him emotionally. When he notices that somebody might be manipulating Caden, he steps in. He doesn't like people taking advantage of him, really. And, yeah, mostly just them being a lovey-dovey couple. Both role in the story. Who else? Oh, Nai. Nai is a character who went through a lot of changes. She was one of the hardest characters to design, actually. I will say, it was worth it because now I really like her, for both a design standpoint and a character standpoint. Yeah, but Nai was a struggle to pin down, but I guess that's how you know she became a good character because she took so much effort. But Nai, they are a rogue. So because rogues are usually like the you know, the sneaky type thieves, they do you know, secret missions and all that good stuff. So in this world, rogues, they're essentially like government agents, or hackers or something or other. They basically do jobs that require working in the shadows or being sneaky. So Nai grew up in a very communal town. Her grandmother and grandfather pretty much founded the town. It's mostly comprised of Navajo people because Nai is Navajo. and Nai was the one of the few people in her village who has magic. The other two people who have magic are her grandfather and grandmother, basically. They were the only ones who could use magic. So because of that, Nai pretty much got favoritism from them, and got to learn how the town is run and got to help them with it, even like at a very young age. You know, because the town is so communal and they rely on each other, this was considered like a big honor, instead of child labor, basically. But although Nai was happy to help and you know, like spending time with her grandparents, it all came to a head when their grandmother died. And the grandfather, he basically wasn't handling his grief well, and because of that, he started putting a lot more pressure on her, forcing her to stay up, go on more dangerous missions with him, just pushing her to you know, do her job and also replace the grandmother in his life, because he wasn't coping with losing his wife at all, and Nye, it pretty much reached a breaking point, and Nye ran away from home. And somewhere along the way, they were recruited by Atlas Academy, and Nye was pretty much like, oh, free room and board, hell yeah. Yeah, so Nye is enrolled in Atlas Academy, um, pretty much just to use as a shelter, because she does not want to go back home. And you know, she meets Caden, and Nye has never interacted with anyone like outside of her town before, or outside of neighboring towns that are mostly comprised of other like Navajo or Native American people. And because of that, Nye is overly familiar with people that she trusts or considers friends. And combining that with the skills of a rogue, because her grandfather was like in the service and was like trained in espionage, and he trained her. So Nai struggles a little bit with boundaries since she grew up in a town where you could just walk into your neighbor's house and make a sandwich from the stuff in their fridge and nobody batted an eye. So combining that with you know, the ability to sneak around and set up cameras and bugs, yeah, Nye sometimes pushes things a little bit. But, you know, them learning those boundaries and, you know, getting past that is part of their arc, so, that's gonna be good for her. But Nye as a character, personality-wise, um, they're very caring and loyal, but they still have self-respect for themselves. Um, they're a little mischievous. Nye, is a little mischievous bug. Um, she doesn't respond well to authority, let's say. Um, she's you know, used to operating behind the scenes, solving her own problems because it, you know, again, communal raising. Um, but she decides to help Caden out, and upon Caden like showing appreciation for her help, sh that she's really moved because you know, their grandfather um just expected them to help out because that's what people in the village do. Back home, they have a talent to contribute. They just help. But Caden expresses gratitude and expresses concern for her well-being instead of pushing them, and that pretty much causes Nye to claim, okay, you're my best friend now. We're besties. Like I cannot let you go. So yeah, Nye is a very loyal and affectionate person to those she trusts. Very kind of locked up to others. She likes to keep the friend circle a little bit exclusive, a little bit small. So she mostly just interacts with Caden, Bo, and our fourth character, Segue. So Claire is our final character in the main cast, and she is an alchemist and also Bo's older sister. So that's a fun fact. Um, she's also the only sophomore in the story, so she has a bit more experience than the others. So her role in the story essentially is to be like the cool big sis and also Miss Exposition. So if there's ever anything in the story that needs to be explained to Caden, she'll usually be the one to do it. Um, and as alchemists in this story, they make potions, but modern twist. because nobody really wants to buy potions in just regular liquid form anymore, like that's not impressing anybody. Alchemists learn to make their potions in unique ways to distribute them. Really, for example, some alchemists turn their potions into candles, and you get the effects by just breathing in the candle scent. Um, Others use like exfoliation, scrubs, perfumes. Essentially, you just have to bottle your potions in a unique way, or have them distributed in a unique way, like through vitamins or whatnot. Because alchemists, in addition to being scientists, they also got to worry about marketing. Because you can have the best potions in the world, but if nobody wants to buy them, then it's like, well, what's the point? Um, so a Claire, as a character, she's pretty much a STEM girly. She makes potions in the form of like candy and sweets. So she's like a scientist slash baker slash business major. She just does it all. She's extra like that. But yeah. So her role in the story is to like guide the younger students. Sort of like a leader. She's usually the one coming up with plans or proposing ways to solve problems. Um, Personality-wise, so Claire, she's very headstrong. She's very sure of herself. She's one of the oldest in the main cast, if not the oldest, at age 22. And because she is a sophomore, she does know more about the school than most. So she's got a good head on her shoulder. She's very reassured. Very rarely will she be the one to freak out. She's usually the one reeling everyone in when times are dire. Um, and her goal is to be like the first female alchemist CEO, because alchemists, a lot of them have like well, the really successful ones have their own like big companies or big conglomerates essentially. But there's no female alchemists who like run the big dog companies as of yet, and she's gonna be the first one. At least she thinks she is. So that's her goal. And she came to Atlas Academy, not because she needs the education. She's already like an expert. She's been an expert on potions since like middle school, really. So she came to Atlas Academy to network because, as mentioned, some of the most elite students are come in. They have famous parents or rich parents who might be willing to invest. So she came here to network, pretty much. She's just here to push her potions. Her potions, her candies, or whatever you want to call them. But she sees that her brother takes a shining to Caden, so she also decides to get involved, and she eventually becomes friends with him genuinely, not just because her brother likes him. I do like their friendship a lot. I will say, Caden and Claire's friendship ended up being, I feel like one of the better written ones. Um, if only because I could just I can accept that maybe my media diet is bad because it is. But I personally don't see many friendships in media between white women and black men like that that don't end up becoming romantic or don't involve some sort of problematic trope. Um, so yeah, Kate and Claire's friendship, um, I feel like it's a really good one because Caden respects her. They mutually respect each other. Claire never condescends to him. Caden never condescends to her. They have a very respectful friendship, I will say. And Caden has a lot of respectful friendships with women. I like that about Caden. I say as if I didn't make him. But yeah. So essentially, Claire is our scientist, our girl boss, our leader of the group. She's she's the rock. If Bo is the emotional rock, Claire is the rock with the brain. Not to call Bo stupid or anything, but he usually doesn't come up with any plans or has anything any solution to offer when times get tough. So yeah, that's essentially the main cast. What else? Oh yeah, so I should probably talk about like the structure of the comic. So the comic I did my best to make it episodic, I would say. Um, I noticed that a lot of webcomics have like a run through story, like a very like consistent like storyline. There isn't much that's like wrapped up in an episode or two, I would say. Um, Serialized is the word I was looking for. Yeah, a lot of webcomics are like serialized, and there's nothing wrong with that. If the story you're telling like demands a long running story, where there's no defined conclusion until the comic is like done, then by all means. But as far as writing goes for me, that's just not really my jam. I like to cover a lot of ground, I would say. And it always feels weird to me when I write something and there's no defined endpoint. Like I don't like to leave things open-ended. That's probably a better way to put it. um so Atlas Academy, much of the time, episodes they're mostly four-parters. Like the longest one will go on is four parts. Some of them are in two parts, consisting of maybe 10 to 20 pages of like comic. Um, and that is to like break up the story. Cause there is the framing device of it taking place in the School of Magic, and there are some arcs that run throughout um the entire comic that don't get resolved instantly. But I there's still like short stories in it, or well, episodes are more a better way to put it, really. Um like for example, there's an episode where Nai is having nightmares, and she hides it from the rest of the group because their nightmares about them abandoning her because they think of them as a burden. She doesn't want to tell them about that because they might not be thinking that, but if she brings it up, then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, you know what, but you do get on our nerves, get out. Yeah, so they think that that'll happen, so they keep hiding their nightmares. But because Nai's magic, oh, I forgot to tell you about Nai's magic. Okay. Nai's magic is that they can control shadows. So if Nai like has a nightmare and it's nighttime and there's a lot of shadows around to like manipulate, that's gonna be bad. They can essentially have night terrors and accidentally destroy stuff around a room. Nai isn't particularly powerful, but still, magic is magic and shadows are shadows. So Nai tries to hide the nightmares from friends, but eventually they find out. They reassure her, and at the end of it, Nai decides to start going to therapy. So that is an example of like an episode. Even though Nai has to work on proper boundaries, what to tell or what to not to tell their friends, that particular part of the story is finished up in one episode. It's two episodes long, but it together as a story is one episode. So yeah, that's essentially the feeling that I'm going for. Yeah, there's a few other webcomics that do this. I don't know if you guys have read Jupiter Men. It's another comic up on Webtoons, and that it's basically like a superhero comic, but it's very episodic. Like if you're a millennial like me, the best way I could describe it is like it's like reading a Saturday morning cartoon. You read a few chapters, and it essentially feels like an episode. It's a defined beginning, middle, and end. The characters go through like sitcom-esque shenanigans combined with like the superhero shenanigans. It harkens back to like cartoons like Kim Possible or Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you haven't read it, go read it. If you want something lighthearted, read it after you read my comic, though. A shameless plug-in. But yeah, I really wanted to just make like episodes of these characters. They have their own like arcs and like long journeys, but they're explored in like vignettes. Um, because I don't want to say that my story isn't like worth anyone's time, but I don't want people to have to spend more time on my story than they should have to. Like, if there's like a natural endpoint that I feel, or if I can explain something in like just a few pages, I don't really see any reason to like hold the reader's time hostage more than I have to. I don't want to think of it as like holding them hostage, but there are some webcomics out there where it just takes forever to get to the point, or it takes forever for characters to discover things, or say things, or do things that they could do in like maybe 2 or 3 panels tops. And you know, I understand why certain writers might do that. I understand why writers might not even intend to do that. You know, because sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes people make web comics as like just a fun side job, and you know, life happens. You can't make updates as often as you would want to. Sometimes you got to go on hiatus and all that good stuff. But like writers who do that deliberately, I'm just not built like that. I'm yeah, I try to be as snappy as possible with my character arcs. If there's something that a character needs to say, they'll usually say it outright, or they'll say it in a timely manner, like before the story is before the episode's over, basically. Um, yeah. So as far as the structure goes, Atlas Academy is very episodic. You can like reread certain stories, like if that's your favorite, like, oh, I really like the episode about when Caden did that thing, or I really like this moment. You can like go back and reread your favorite stories or your favorite sections of the stories, without, you know, having to like comb through and remember, really, like, or having to comb through a bunch of pages. Another thing, um, well, another benefit of the webcomic being episodic, I feel, is that it makes it more accessible. Like, if you see that if you discover this comic in the wild and see that it has an update, you can read whatever's happening, and you don't have to go back to the whole beginning of the comic. Like, I can't speak for anyone else, but when I see a comic that looks really interesting, but you know, the story is like in the midst of something really actiony or something really important happening, and you can tell that it's important, but you also don't really get what's going on, and you hit the menu to go home back through the chapters, and there's like 100,011 chapters, and it's like, bro, I you there's I understand that webcomics are like built for scrolling, but it, you can put more in a single episode, I feel. Like you made me scroll all I was scrolling all day to look at 4 panels? Really, dude? I mean, like even if a story is good, it's it's just disheartening to have to like spend an entire day, maybe, just reading, trying to comprehend what's going on. And again, I can't speak for anyone else, but sometimes I have to read through something more than once to like really get what happened, like really get the meat of it or comprehend. And when you have to do that with like 100+ chapters, like, or 1,000 pages, when you consider that each chapter contains who knows however many panels, like, that's a lot of time, that's a lot of effort for something that's like supposed to be like a fun break. I mean, if the webcomic's supposed to be fun, there's a lot of webcomics that like that are supposed to crush your soul. But I mean, mission accomplished if that's how you set it up. But but yeah, that's just never been my thing. I like it when webcomics when they make use of like space. Like they let you upload really long, really long images, and I like when artists and storytellers make use of that. I just don't like it when I scroll down and I feel like I've just read like a portion of a story rather than a story. Like, and again, I understand that some comics are just meant to be that way, but that's not how I wanted my comic to be. I want someone who comes across my comic to be able to know what's going on, essentially. Um, to not only know what's going on, but to be able to get a satisfying conclusion, but before the century's over, to put it plainly. So if somebody like discovers my comic and it's in like the middle of an episode, it's like, oh, okay, I just have to wait another week, and Monday and Thursday, which is when I do updates, I'll know what happens, and then there'll be a new episode. Whether or not they like the new episode, it'll be up to them. But if they like it, that's great. They don't have to wait too long to you know have the satisfying conclusion of that story. And on the other hand, if they end up not liking that particular story, they can just skip over it and not lose much because again, it's episodic, so the episodes aren't really as interwoven as some other webcomics. So if you don't like a particular chapter of it, or just aren't the biggest fan, or don't want to reread it, you don't have to. You can still know what's happening in Atlas Academy if you just dive right in, and you don't have to come back a lot. And that's something I like about my comic. And some other people have expressed to me that they like it too. So that's what I'm sticking to. But yeah, that's Atlas Academy. That's how it's structured. Those are like the main characters of the outfit. And yeah.